So he returns from the Death Watch. Yes.
Without her shield.
Yes. So where is it? The shield she entrusted to you. The last thing that remained of her? It wasn't the last. We remain. That is what she would have wanted. And not for us to... How do you know? Most of us? You think Graphius would have let you come back without a word? I had hoped his lateness was the culprit again. Not this time. How has being the temporary sergeant treated you? I can see why you left, and I'm glad you're back. Maybe if you had never left, Graphius and her shield would have never left us. Neither of those were my choice. I was summoned. You cannot ignore the Inquisition.
So, what replaces her shield?
We found it on Ancrius 7. A relic from the Legion, made from pure bloodstone. I do not want to dwell on the Inquisition any longer. Then come. You should meet our new Bladeguard. He seems to have inherited Raphius' zeal.
I had started working on this video before I painted the apothecary. I was watching some battle report, and it had some really nice looking Bladeguard, and so I thought I should get some for myself. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I have some. Primaris. And that's when the ball really started rolling. I started to really think about what makes the Bladeguard unique to the Primaris. Sword and shield, obviously. Their armor is a bit more fancy. Their waist capes, the little shoulder shield, and their shoulder pads being Terminator size, which I never noticed until I started looking at them so hard. After identifying all that, I looked at which kit to use. At first I thought about either the Vanguard or Sternguard veterans, some dynamic posing, lots of extra bits for the bits box, or not having to do the waist capes with green stuff and kind of better looking. Then I remembered I'm a Blood Angels player, and I could just cover up the X's with green stuff, and I could use the Death Company models, which would give them all a more Blood Angels feel, and so ultimately that's what I decided on. Then I was given some Death Watch veterans for Christmas, and I thought, what if I represent the fancy armor of the normal Bladeguard with Mark 8 armor? And now, a brief history lesson of Mark 8 armor.
Mark 8 armor was made sometime after the Horus Heresy, and thus was not produced on a large scale, so only a small amount were given to veterans. So I guess in this case, what separates these firstborn Bladeguard from Vanguard veterans would be that they are given the special honor of having their whole squad made up of Mark 8 armored veterans, rather than the normal one they may get.
It was also a good choice because that kit came with a bunch of swords, although they're kind of boring. As for the shields, I decided to go all out for these guys and get some stuff from Pop Goes the Monkey. I really like these shields. They're cool. And I should get some Terminator sized shoulder pads. What? No. What do you... No. No, the Terminator shoulder pads. No, not... I don't remember why I chose those shoulder pads. I guess it works. They are bigger than the normal ones.
Just like my...
Well, as I wait for those to arrive, let's get these guys made as much as we can. First, I did what I said in the making true scale firstborn Marines without Primaris. I also put some more green stuff in the holes where those pouches would be. Then I shaved all the Inquisition symbols off. I gave this guy a Xenophase whatever because he was a part of the Death Watch. I mean, I might as well, since I have so many shoulder pads I'm not going to use now. At least I can get rid of one. First, I was going to give everyone these special bolters to stand in as heavy bolt pistols, but I found something better later. Also, he needed this arm to hold a shield, so I ripped the bolter off and replaced it with one of the Death Watch shields. I didn't have any green stuff at the time. I used my, at the time, newly acquired liquid green stuff, and I wanted to try something. I know how to use liquid green stuff, but I just wanted to try it. I thinned down the liquid green stuff, and it did not work how I thought it would. I know that some people don't like liquid green stuff, but I do whenever you don't thin it. Long story short, the shield is all bumpy now, but that does give me an idea, but that's for painting. The next guy I did, I wanted to emulate something from the Primaris kit. This guy wiping his blade, so I took a right sword arm and cut his shoulder off. Then I got a bolter holding arm and just kind of put him in there. It's kind of hard to show. Unlike I gave him a bear head, as in without a helmet. He's not in a bear like the animal. So I cut the neck off one of the helmets and glued it to his leg. Then later I decided he can have this shield from the real Bladeguard. So I cut off the battle damage. Well, I just put that on his back since both his arms are busy. Then this guy, I wanted to be pulling his sword out of his scabbard, so I took an arm from a rocket launcher and cut his hand off and replaced it with a sword. Then put his pistol arm in a way that made it look like he had to raise his arm so that he could get to the sword. And these guys are my favorite of the 5. It's so much that I didn't even record anything about the other 2 until the shields and shoulder pads arrived. Oh, the shields and shoulder pads arrived. Nice. This guy was originally going to have his sword and shield on the same arm, but that doesn't make any sense. So I cut his sword hand off and put a shield on there. But having your gun and shield isn't weird, so I cut the hand. I've never worked with resin before, so I didn't know that it would be this hard to cut the hand off. Well, that kind of ruins my plan to remove the Blood Angel symbol from the right shoulder pads. Yeah, well, I guess it's not weird for veterans to have their chapter symbol on both shoulders. Well, speaking of the shoulders, when putting on the shields, make sure that there's enough room for the shoulders. Then, when I was finally able to get more green stuff, I wanted to make the waist capes, but I had to make the belt buckles first. I'll explain why later. Then I did the waist capes by flattening the green stuff, cutting the edges off, and just putting it on there. Then I gave it some wrinkles with my, at the time, new rubber shaping things. Then do the same. Oh, his arm fell off. Then do the same to the stomach. And as I waited for all that to harden, I had just a little bit of green stuff left. So I rolled it into a blood drop and smushed it onto a guy's chest. Then I realized I forgot to give this guy a towel, so I did, trying to make it as towel-like as possible, which reminded me to also do this guy's scabbard. I just flattened some green stuff and wrapped it around part of the sword, which was helped when his arm broke off, although I did end up making it a bit thicker than I would have liked, especially after I added this bit of trim to it. Then I tried to make everyone's chest less boring. These are firstborn. They all get to be unique. This guy got some cool wings around his blood drop. I don't really know how to tell you what I did. It was both easy and I could never repeat it, so just watch whatever I did. I just kind of made a wing shape. And remember how I said I could never repeat it? Yeah, here's proof. It's just as good. It's not the same. After that, I redid the blood drop so that it would fit in better with its new wings. For the sergeant, I gave his blood drop another blood drop so that it could look like the first one was trim for the second. Then I wanted to give it wings too, but different to the first one. So I put a blob down and cut lines into it to make it look like a normal Aquila. It's good enough. I should have just given him ab armor. Just like the first one, I couldn't repeat it on the other side, so I just made some cloth to cover it up. Then I did the belts I thought I did much sooner, just a line of green stuff over his normal belt. I then pressed the belt buckles from earlier. We had those hardened first, because then we can just shove it on, rather than try and figure out how to make it around the belt. Then I gave this guy some robes. Not full-on Dark Angels, but covering the chest. And then painting. Part of the way through, my computer was completely filled with recordings of these guys. It made me realize I had to change how these videos are made. It's a whole thing, but it put a damper on the whole project and is part of the reason I couldn't finish this sooner. I mean, this video was going to be the 4th video I made, and now, whatever. I started with Mephiston Red, as you've probably seen by now. Then I did the waist capes with Xandri Dust, and I did the helmets, any blood drops, the shoulder, the shield trim, and various other bits with Retributor armor. Then I did a bunch of stuff with Mechanicus Standard Gray, but then I undid it all later. Either when I did the things with Leadbelcher, like the Sergeant's Xenos sword, Deathwatch shoulder pad, and his shield, and for everyone got their right arm stuff, knives, backpack vents, and heavy bolt pistols done too. Then, after a while of looking at them, I just wasn't feeling the back sensor things. I was also feeling like there weren't enough swords for guys called the Bladeguard, so I took this guy's bolter off. I also felt like all of them were feeling a bit samey, which was the whole reason I wanted to unprimaricize them in the first place. So I wasn't going to use one of my boring swords from either the Death Watch kit or Tactical Marines. So I took a chain sword from the Death Company and tried to make it into a power sword. It obviously didn't work and I removed it later. And then I thought about the Bladeguard's pistol holsters. So I tried to make some with green stuff, and well, there's a reason GW makes their holsters way too small to ever hold a bolt pistol. Then I decided to go back to painting. I did Rhinox hide on the pouches, on their backs, and their belts. And I put Bugman's glow on this guy's face, which reminds me I forgot to make his little cloth thing, Xandri Dust, before. Then with Abaddon Black, I did this guy's wings, the Sergeant's shoulder pad, this guy's shield, and everyone's armor joints. Then Everland Sunset for this guy's hair, Runefang Steel for this guy's shield, so that this Blood Angel's red is extra shiny. As that dried, I did the white for all the symbols on their shoulders. Then Everland again for the Sergeant. I have a weird idea for the Xenoface blade. I made some gold stripes on there, and thin Dark Angel's green way down, and coated the sword with it. Then Tesseract Glow to make it really glow. Then after it dries, I tried to paint around the crevices, leaving them to glow. Yeah. This neat. Then I did a bunch of stuff I removed later, and added these little shoulder shields I forgot the Bladeguard had. Then did a bunch of touch-ups that I didn't need to record, but I did anyways. Then I did white on their shield wings, then apothecary white on that, and all the shoulder symbols. And apparently I wasn't happy with that, so I redid the white, but left the crevices. Then I did the blood drop in the middle with Corn Red. Then I did the upper third with Mephiston Red, and then half of that with Evil Sun Scarlet. Then I blended it all together with thinned down Blood Angel's red. Then I finally realized how bad that sword was, so I removed it. Kept the handle, and put a normal power sword on top of that. Then I put Spirit Stone Red on the shield's blood drops. Probably should have done that before the sword, but I just couldn't take it anymore. Oh, I totally forgot. I wanted to do his shield with Spirit Stone Red as well. I meant to do it after the Blood Angel's red dried, but I forgot. Then I did Agrax Earthshade all over their tabards. And then I found a better heavy bolt pistol in the Mark III box. Their bolt pistol is exactly what I needed. I just didn't have that box when I started. Then I did Blood Angel's red in the recesses to add shadow or whatever. Then Evil Sun Scarlet over the top parts of the red. I basically never edge highlight. That's way too hard for me. But what isn't too hard for me is washing the gold with Reikland Flesh Shade and this guy's face. Then I highlighted it with Kislav Flesh. Then I put Tesseract Glow in their eyes, except his I did with white. Then I did the pupils badly. I fixed it with Kislav again. Then I did the eyes of his helmet with Dark Angel's green, and then a bit of yellow for everyone else's eyes. Some Liberator gold to highlight the gold, and some Null Oil all over their metal bits. I thinned down a Keelan green with contrast medium for their power swords, and Black Templar for this guy's bolt pistol. Then I put the blood on this guy's sword that he's wiping off, and some for this guy as well. You know, if he's holding his sword on this arm, there'd be blood all over his shield, right? Then I did a bunch of random shapes and colors for their mini shields. They all should look like they mean something, like a campaign badge or an honorific or something. Then I put a bunch of transfers all over them. Now I think that they're done. Except, the Bladeguard are on 40mm bases, so I should... I got 100 of them. I cut up some cardboard to make some cardboard rocks, and hot glued them all over the bases. Then I made a mix of sand, white glue, and some brown paint, and put it on there. And these little rocks that I have. I mixed way too much PVA glue in there, so after it had half dried, I poked it a bunch with a brush. Then I took Xandri dust and thinned it way down, and I should explain, it lets the brown paint show just a little, and the rocks only get a little bit of Xandri dust, so when we do this wash of Agrek's Earthshade, it's slightly different to the sand. Then I dry brushed Xandri dust back on there. There. Now it's finally done.